Hello, everybody. It's December 2024. I am continuing my episodes as it relates to questions that have been given to me by my daughter for me to answer. And today's question is, what would you save if your house was on fire? What would you save if your house was on fire? Well, I had real life experience with this. And so I'll tell you about my real life experience of what I did try and save. Basically, you have to remember at the time, it was, I think, 1988. I was renting a house in St. Francis County, I should say St. Louis County, up in Bellefontaine Neighbors, which is a working class area. And basically, the house was constructed well, which may have ultimately saved lives. And the reason I say that is there was an attached garage, and the garage was built with a firewall. That may have been the code in St. Louis County on houses with an attached garage. You had to have a firewall between the garage and the actual inside of the premises of the home. So the answer to the question is, what did I save when I had the house fire in 1988? The simple answer is the dog. And to give you a little bit of background, this was a house that I rented, and basically it didn't even have a lease. That shows you how informal things were back then. Didn't even have a lease, so which basically meant that you were, a month-to-month tenancy. And so basically, I got a dog. Somebody gave me a dog. His name was Junior. He was a black and tan. They gave me a dog, and I like dogs. I didn't have a dog at the time, and I thought, well, I'll take this dog. And his name was Junior. He's a really good dog. And so, I had a fenced-in backyard. I had a back door, so I kind of made him part of the household, and let him in and out of the house, and let him, do his thing outside, and then bring him on inside. Just usual and normal type of activities of a dog. But it got complicated. It got complicated because my landlord, after she determined or learned that I actually had a dog, I had not sought permission to have a dog, but she was concerned that the dog would soil the rug, and so she was, upset that I had gotten a dog without her permission. And she was upset that the dog would soil the rug. And so I had to turn Junior into an outdoor dog. And so how did we do that? Well, with my dad's help, or my dad's hindrance, my dad built an electrically heated doghouse to go in the garage. And we also had a latch on the back door of the garage that led to the backyard. And so Junior could go in and out of the garage as he saw fit. And as winter came, we would have an electrically heated doghouse for him to lay in on these cold Missouri evenings during the winter. I think the fire occurred in February or March of 1988. And so what my dad did, he even called himself a jack of all trades, master of none. So what he did, he took 2x4s together, laid them on their end, and formed a square, and nail it all together, of course. Put some holes and some electrical wiring in the 2x4s, and put sockets there, and he screwed in a couple of light bulbs. That was his heating. Uh, and then on the top of the 2x4s, he put a piece of plywood, and he drilled some holes in the plywood so that the heat from the bottom of the garage would go up through the holes in the plywood. And of course, that all served as the floor of the doghouse. And then he put walls and a top on it. And the thought was that, he won't get too cold. And so my dad volunteered to do this, and it seemed like a pretty good way to resolve the problem because I wanted to get along with my landlord. And so it all seemed to work out for a little while. And then, which a popular YouTube personality says, and then not so much. So what happened is that people that are electrically minded, electricians probably could see this a mile away, is that everything got too hot. And it particularly got hot when we put a little blanket over the floor of the doghouse. So got too hot, fire started, and early that morning, it started at night. Early that morning, I could hear, as I was laying in my bed, I could hear like snap, crackle, pop. And then I remember looking out my window, and it was before dawn, and the sky was brighter. The fire had lit up the sky. So it was pretty much engulfed. I'm talking about the garage. And so I'm looking out the window, and I go, there's a fire. So I ran out the back door and made sure, first and foremost, that Junior was okay. And he was okay, mostly because as soon as the fire started, he headed out the back door of the garage and just sat around in the backyard and probably just watched the fire, as any curious dog would do. And so Junior was not injured, nor was anyone else injured, but he was a nasty fire and did major damage to the household. And basically, I went and talked to my dad afterwards. And this was after I talked to the fire chief. And it was one of the few times, maybe the only time, that I saw my dad at for a loss of words. I went to him, and I wasn't mad. It was kind of like he was trying to help me, and he was a good guy. And, of course, the fire chief was the one that was most upset about things. He was even more upset than the owners of the property for some reason. They had good replacement value policy. And so I went to my dad and I said, hey, this is what happened. And he was at a loss of words. It was kind of like he had no response about how that fire had started. I think intuitively it all came home to him that this design that he had for a homemade electrically heated doghouse was not going to work. Well, after the fire, of course, the firemen came and they put out the fire. After the fire, the fire chief came, and he was not happy with me because I was trying to tell him about what started the fire, about the electrically heated doghouse, and he was angry at me. And I was just kind of like, I guess it wasn't too good of an idea. So anyhow, he wasn't particularly happy. And then after the fire, it worked out being a blessing. You know, the old saying is a blessing in disguise, because the landlord had good insurance, replacement value insurance. We got a new roof, we got a new siding, and we got all the walls repainted. The basic structure of the house, except for the garage, was in pretty good shape, and the garage was rebuilt. So in the course of all that, I wound up buying the house from the landlord. I stayed in good enough relationship with them that I was interested in buying the house, particularly, you know, new siding, a new roof, and the walls freshly painted, and a new rebuilt garage. You know, why not? So I bought the house from them. And what happened to Junior is I gave Junior to my mom. My mom was a dog lover. She loved Junior. I would bring him over occasionally, and she really liked Junior. And I probably should have did that from the word go once I learned that my landlord didn't want Junior inside the house, because my mom most likely would have taken Junior, because she liked him a lot. He was a good-natured dog. And so that is my story about the fire, an actual fire. And so when you ask me the question, what would you save if your house was on fire? I can speak from experience and tell you, my dog.